This is Tom with the Crypto Crew. Today we're talking to James about his sightings. How are you today, James?
I'm fine. How are you?
I understand maybe you had two different encounters with Bigfoot?
I have.
Okay, let's start with the first one. Can you tell us maybe what year it was in and what state and location?
Okay, it was approximately in 1972. I was about 7 years old. It was across from Choptank, Maryland. I lived on a little shoreline near the Choptank River, and I would always go down to the beach late in the evening and go fishing. Well, there's a swamp area right next to where the beach led up to where you could walk up to our house, and the swamp area leads into a wooded area. Well, down in Maryland, or up in Maryland, they call them swamp apes, and not too many people believed in them, but I was walking down on the beach. I had my fishing rod. It was about 5 o'clock in the evening, and I heard a whole lot of rattling in the marsh where I was walking very close to, and out came what would appear to be, to me, a female Sasquatch, about 5.5 foot tall, with an infant in her arm. Hanging from her arm, she turned, she looked directly at me, made the most obnoxious, loud, screeching, screaming sound I'd ever heard, twisted herself around twice and ran through the marsh. I could barely see her head, and I heard a big tree snap. Well, it scared me to death. I ran up and got my dad. We went back down to the marsh. We walked as far in there as we could, and we could see the tree that had broken over. But my dad said that it was some kind of small bear. Well, I know a 7-year-old's testimony may not be much, but now I'm 48, and I know what I saw. And it was definitely not a bear. It was definitely a Bigfoot. I've researched them for 30 years, off and on, and I know what I saw. So pretty much that's that story.
What color was that one you seen?
It was brownish black, somewhat of a pointed head, very long arms that went down to at least its knees. As I recall, the chest area did not seem to be covered in a whole lot of hair. It seemed to be apish-like, almost like a large ape. It almost seemed to be as if it had smoothest skin. And by my second sighting that I had, it was kind of different, but I mean, it had the same pointed head, but it was very large. Facial expressions were kind of, it was very mean. That's all I can say. The facial expression was very like, you're in my space, you're in my territory, I want you out of here, you do not belong here, this is where I belong, and, you know, if you don't back off, then I will charge you, more or less. And, you know, I just stood there and all, and like I said, I ran up and told my dad, and we went back down there, and other people had seen, but, you know, it was what they called a hoax of the community. But I know what I saw. It was real. It was very real. And inside the middle of the marsh area, my brother got back in there and said he saw a big mound made out of twigs and sticks and mud, and he couldn't get to it because it was so swampy, but he said it was at least 7 foot tall and probably 10 to 12 feet wide.
So that was probably where it was staying at then.
Yeah, that's some kind of shelter area that I believe it was staying at. And I believe it just come down there to get fish and stuff because there was fishing nets and crab lines that were always thrown out. So, you know, a meal source for it would be they're very intelligent.
Yeah, easy to get to that way as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's finding a line and pulling it in, you know, and seeing somebody else doing it. They see something, I believe, that they actually learn by what they see. And I believe they have their own intellect anyway. I believe they have their own speech. I believe they have their own migration habits. You know, people say they smell as of sulfur. Well, I know out north that sulfur mines seem to connect to state. So I have one theory that they may travel through sulfur mines.
That's possible.
To where they cannot be detected. Now, that's one of my theories. May not be yours, but that's one of mine.
That's possible. That'd keep them well hid too.
Very much.
Okay, where was your second sighting at, and when did it occur?
Okay, I was 17 years old. I was with my dad. I was 50 miles north of the Elk River. I was on a ridge, and I shot a mule deer. As the mule deer dropped, I was looking through my sight, and I had a very, very powerful sight. As I looked down about 500 yards on the bottom of the ridge, there was this large, and I do mean large, every bit of 8 foot tall, 800 pounds had to be. Same long arms. This one was black in color, but more hairy on the chest than the other one that I had seen. Somewhat of a pointed head. It roared out so loud that my dad, which was almost a half a mile away, heard. They thought it was a bear. It was not a bear. This thing stood straight up, arms down to its side, had one hand up on the side of a tree. As it looked at me, and I do mean it looked directly at me, it pushed the tree. The tree actually snapped and fell over. And it turned around, and it kind of started to walk off. I fired a warning shot just to see what it would do. It turned around. It made another loud, high-pitched, like roaring sound. Like, it was not like a lime, different. You would have to hear it, or you probably have heard such sounds. And it ran. About 5 minutes after that, I was heading down the side of the ridge, and I started hearing knocking sounds really loud, like somebody was taking a ball bat just beating a tree. And I picked up a stick, and I started knocking back because I had heard that the Sasquatch like to communicate by knocking or letting you know you're in their territory. So I started knocking back on the tree, and it started knocking back at me. And I got to my dad, and I got to the outfitters that we were with. One of the outfitters believed my story 100%. The other one was skeptical, and my dad said there's no such thing. So same story goes that, you know, my whole life, my dad, my mom, my brothers, everybody seems to think I'm crazy. But everybody that has seen one is crazy. So I guess we're all crazy.
I guess so. But no, they're out there. It's just it's good that you've got to see two different times. Some people go and they spend days out in the mountains. They don't get to see anything, you know. So you've got to see it twice.
Well, there's one near, I live in Shelby, North Carolina, and there is a town called Kaiser, which is about 15 miles from here. And there is well-known Sasquatch sightings there. There's even a man that's on Facebook. His name is Ben Nobby Knob. You may want to look him up. He has a picture of him being a Sasquatch, and he says lost hiker alerts all the time and stuff. But he researched. He's an ex-FBI agent, supposedly. And there's been many, many stories from Kaiser. My brother-in-law, before I got married years ago, had one in Kaiser actually jump on the back of his car, and he's seen it plain as day. It was about 5, 6 o'clock in the evening, and it shook the car. It ran around to the side of the car, tried to lift the car with him in it. He jumped out of the car and ran a mile to a gas station.
Yeah, some of them seem to be a little more aggressive than others.
Yeah, and I've heard stories of people being in log cabins and then busting out windows and trying to get in, and so, you know. And I know a story of Daniel Boone supposedly killed one in his days and brought it out of the woods, and there was over 150 people that witnessed it. So there's many stories out there, and, you know, I definitely believe. I know what I've seen, and I know when other people are saying they had seen what they had seen because they say the same thing that I do, that, you know, what they've seen. And the color, the shape, the size, everything.
Well, on your second sighting, I guess it wasn't maybe as big a shock to you because you'd already seen one, right?
It was somewhat of a shock just for the plain fact that when the mule deer when the mule deer fell, all I seen in my sight was this big, large, hairy, mean, aggressive, and he was aggressive. I mean, I believe that if I had been any closer to this, that it would have probably attempted to charge me. He was definitely protecting something more than just, you know, his little environment right there. I believe that possibly there may have been others, or it could have possibly even been infants somewhere around. But he let me know he was there, and the gunshot did not scare him at all. He had been well... He has seen other humans. I mean, he had seen humans before. He wasn't scared of them. And as I've been told, they don't seem to be scared of people. They just they will let you know their presence, and they will either run or they will stand still or they will walk away. And in the general scenario, they walk away. They don't run. They're not scared of us. They are not scared of us at all.
Well, I've heard other people say that they're as curious about us as we are them.
Yeah.
Was you able to get the mule deer?
Yeah, I got the mule deer. It was a clean kill. It was a 12-point mule deer. And actually, on our way home, someone broke into my dad's Blazer and stole the antlers and a pair of prescription sunglasses. We had 2 rifles in there, 2 very expensive knives, 2 very expensive down sleeping bags, and they did not touch that stuff. They took a pair of sunglasses and my antlers.
I wonder if the Bigfoot was maybe wanting to get the deer itself.
It's possible. It's possible. I'm telling you that he was not 500 yards from where the deer dropped. And as I walked, as I was looking through my sight at him, I was walking towards him. And that's when he started to get very loud and very obnoxious, and he pushed the tree with his one arm, and it snapped right over, and the tree was every bit of 10 inches around. So that will tell you the size and the strength and the mass of these things, what they are capable of doing. And I've even posted on my Facebook that if a grizzly bear and a Sasquatch were to get into a fight, who would win? And I got your comment that you think the Sasquatch would win because it has a thumb. Well, that grizzly bear's got claws and teeth. I think it would be a very interesting fight, and I'm sure somewhere in the wild it has happened. It would have had to have happened somewhere down the line.
Yeah, I've also heard of a video. I've never seen it, but I've heard them talk about it where where 2 Sasquatch were fighting. That somebody was able to film that briefly. I kind of like to see that. I thought that might be interesting.
Yeah. So you have heard about the tree knocking, though? And
Oh yeah. When I go out researching myself, usually I'll try a few tree knocks, or maybe a few whoops to try to get some response.
And I've also been told that they like to be near wolves for some reason. Have you ever heard that?
Well, I've heard that they do mimic wolf sounds, so that would be possible.
Yeah, I'm thinking that maybe they might travel through wolves, like paths and follow them, and maybe it's a way of covering up their scent, or I don't know. But I know for a plain fact that they are real. I know there is no doubt in my mind, and I have other friends that have seen, and I have friends on Facebook, many friends on Facebook, and they're real, and it's like a lot of things. I kind of believe in cover-ups, and I just think it's something that our government doesn't want to let out. There's more to it than what's being told.
I think so too. You're talking about the wolves. I would say it would be much easier for a Bigfoot to follow some wolves, and if they made a kill of a deer or something, to take it from them.
Yeah. Well, I watch the guys on TV. I can't think what they're called, but there's the lady and the guys, and they go out with the lights at night, and they're walking through the woods and stuff. You probably know what I mean.
Yeah, that's Finding Bigfoot, yeah.
Yeah, Finding Bigfoot. And they do the tree knocking, and they make the howling sounds of the wolves, and every time they do the wolf howl sound, they get a reply, I've noticed. Almost every time when they howl,
Yeah.
you get a oh back. And basically that's what it was, except it was very deep and very loud, and you could just tell by the tone of both of their voice that they were not comfortable with me being in their presence. They did not want me near them. They wanted to be left alone, and it was almost like you go your way or I will make you go your way. So I got gone. The second time I was a little bit braver, and being that I had a gun, and I wasn't really all that scared. I was more shocked that after the deer fell, that what was in my sights, it was just like, wow. And and again, it was like I froze. Why don't people take a shot at these things? Well, one thing, it would be cruel, I think. To actually kill one. And to tell you the truth, it wasn't threatening my life or anything. If it had charged me, I probably would have took a shot at it. I was within plenty close range to have killed it. I was that close. So, I froze. It just shocked me. I could not believe what I was saying. But, you know, the one guy said, oh, it was a big grizzly bear. Grizzly bears are brown. Grizzly bears are not black. Sorry. I'm sorry. I know the difference. And the bear can stand on its hind legs, but a bear does not look like this. This thing has the shape of a man almost. It's manly with long, stealthy arms and long legs and huge head. And, you know, I mean, I could see its face. Its eyes were close together and almost squinted. It was not happy. It was not happy.
Well, you can tell too that a bear has a snout kind of like a dog or something, and
it did. A pushed-in snout. It did, and they're almost ape-like, except they're human-like too. It's very awkward to me to understand how a creature of this mass and size could be out there in this world, and nobody has ever captured one.
Yeah.
The only story I've been told is the Daniel Boone story, that where he killed one and brought it back to civilization, which I don't know if you've heard that story or not.
oh yeah, I covered that story. Being in Kentucky, we know quite a bit about Daniel Boone.
Yeah.
But over the years, there have been reports of others being killed. I know there was a man in Texas that claimed he killed two while out spotlighting some game and killing it. But over the years, there's been a few reports of them being killed.
Yeah, and I've heard about them being hit by trucks and cars too on old country roads, but not killing them, just hitting them and them running off and finding blood trails. So,
Well, there was a report. Here in my adjoining county, in Harlan County, Kentucky, of a lady that hit one with her car. I guess this is probably, I don't know, several years ago, and it didn't kill it, but it hit her. She hit it with her car and it ran on off. So there's a few reports of that as well.
And I found my own hair samples near my grandmom's house in Maryland years ago when I was about 10 or 11 that were about 7 foot up on the side of a tree stuck in some bark.
Wow.
So I don't know of anything in Maryland that's that big. They have bear, but not that size. They're I forget what they call them, but they're a smaller bear, and they have the deer there mostly are called Sitka deer. They're very little deer that came over from Europe. I guess they were on boats and they swam ashore, and they have a lot of Sitka deer and white-tailed deer, and there are brown bears, but there's no bears that are 7 foot tall. So that's another thing. And actually, I've still got that hair sample. I've still got it in a little Ziploc bag put up.
That's good. Keep it.
I've never got it analyzed. I don't know who to take it to or who would analyze it for me.
Well, if you're around maybe a university or something, they could probably help you the best. Being close without having to mail it off or anything like that.
Well, I'm near Duke University. I'm about 3 hours from there, and I've got a couple friends that go to Duke. But being it's a medical school, I never really thought much about it.
Yeah, that would you might try that or something like that and find out. But a lot of it depends on how it was gathered. And you being young, I don't know, you probably just grabbed it with your hands. So
I just grabbed it as a blob of black hair. So.
But it sure sounds like you've seen a couple Bigfoot in your life, and that's wonderful.
Well, actually 3 if you want to consider the baby swinging off the arm.
Yeah.
And what's funny about that is it was almost monkey-like. It was hanging off its mama's arm. It was hanging and swinging off its mama's arm. And I found that very, very, very strange that the mother didn't hold it in close. She just let it hang as she ran. And it just held hold. It just held tight, and off she went.
Huh. It knew to hang on.
Do I now?
I said it knew to hang on.
Yeah, but it wasn't going anywhere. And I've seen pictures, too. I think I've seen one of your blogs where they were swinging from trees, way up high in trees.
Yeah, I've got some. I think I've put some pictures up of that.
Yeah, that was very unusual, too. They almost look like lemurs.
Yeah, they do, kind of.
And I seen the picture yesterday of that one, and the only problem I have with that is the arms were so thin, and it almost looks like a lemur. But it's too large to be a lemur. So, it's the large and the stealthness of it that's what's, the pictures. It's like nobody knows how to focus their camera. Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah, a lot of times, yeah. But I think they have different body types, kind of like us. Kind of like humans, different facial features.
Well, they say in the Tibetan mountains that they're white. So,
Well, we've had reports around here of white Bigfoot. I just done a interview with a guy named Steve that I know. He was on the Finding Bigfoot show in Knoxville, but his sighting didn't make the actual TV show. But I did an interview with him, and the one he seen was white in Tennessee.
wow, 10 foot tall. Lord have mercy. Did it have red eyes?
He said he couldn't see the eyes because it was just so hairy.
You would think that's an albino.
Yeah.
Wow. I've never heard of that other than like in Tibet. I don't know what they call them there, but they've got a different name for them. But I've watched stories on them in Tibet, and the Tibetan people definitely believe in what they've seen. I think they're all over the world. At one time, all the continents were actually connected, so, it would explain why they are everywhere.
Right.
As time and, things have changed with the world and things have separated, they had less of the ability to travel from place to place, so they wound up adapting to their environment. And I do believe they're everywhere, from New Zealand to Europe to you name it.
Yeah, seems like there's reports everywhere, all over the world. There's been reports, maybe except for Hawaii.
Yeah, that's the only place. You're right. You're absolutely right. I just realized that. Canada, Alaska. They're in Alaska.
Yeah.
Big open vast mass of nothingness.
Right, and lots of game and deer and things like that to eat on.
Have you actually seen one?
I have been. Me and my dad run in on one night while coon hunting years ago. I've never really told the story. I plan on doing it someday. Yeah, I've been. There was one other time too. Recently that I was. I didn't see it, but I'm pretty sure I was in the presence of another one because you can kind of feel that they're there before you ever see them.
Yeah. Did you smell it?
No, I didn't smell this one.
I smelled the first one. The first one smelled nasty, swampy, sort of like eggs. That's how close I was to her. I was every bit of 30 feet from her, and you could smell her. She reeked. She absolutely reeked.
Yeah, I don't think all of them smell. I think some of them maybe do, some of them don't.
Huh. I've never heard that. I've always heard that they all have an odor to them, so that's a new one.
I know the one that we ran in on coon hunting, we was about, 30, 35 yards from it, and there was no smell.
No smell?
No smell for it with it, no.
Was it aggressive?
No, not really. It just followed us for a pretty good way and scared us pretty good.
Wow. So oh, man, it followed you. That's neat. That is really neat. See, that shows they're not scared of us.
And see, my dad, he never did really believe in that kind of stuff, but we was both pretty scared that night.
Well, I definitely believe, and I believe there's other life out there in space too. I can't believe that God would have made all this universe and only put us here.
Well, it's awful big, out through there. The chances of there being something out there is great.
Yeah, exactly. So, all I can tell the world is be open-minded, not be closed-minded like a friend of mine next door. Keep your mind open. Just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean it's not true.
Right.
It's just like believing in God. You can't see him, but you know he's there.
Yeah.
It's just like Bigfoot. A lot of people don't see him, but believe me, know he's there because they're there. They're there, and there's more of them than what people think. There's a lot of them, and they're very good at disguising themselves when they're in their own environment. And I believe they're masters at what they do, and that is hiding. If they want to be seen, they will be seen. If they don't want to be seen, you can believe they're not going to be seen.
Yeah.
And I believe that 100%.
Yep, they're very intelligent, I do believe.
Oh, yes. I believe they're very intelligent.
Well, James, is there anything else you'd like to add about your sightings or anything we might have, maybe should have asked you we didn't?
No, that's pretty much both the stories. I really appreciate you taking your time to do this interview with me, and it means a lot to me. I've been holding these stories in other than a few friends and family, and it's really good to have somebody believe in me and have enough faith in me to, do an interview and put this out there for the world to hear.
Well, I think a lot of people are kind of like you. They've seen something, but they really don't want to come out and tell about it because a lot of people won't believe and they'll make fun of you and say you're crazy or you're drinking or something like that. But I've took a lot of these report ins. Some people don't want to use their real name for various reasons. Some people do, but I've done a lot of these. I've took written reports and audio reports and things, and there's definitely something to it. Some people it will take maybe them seeing one personally to believe, but I just don't believe everybody's making up stories.
No, that's not. They're not stories. I believe there are some people out there that are trying to get attention, but I've been holding these stories forever. If I wanted attention, I would release this stuff a long, long time ago to somebody else.
I agree with you.
I waited till I was 48 years old to come off the hip with any of this stuff because, now I believe, I'm old enough where people can respect my opinions and what I say I saw. And, people want to think I'm crazy. Look, everybody's a little bit crazy. I am not crazy. I know what I saw. I saw what I saw. I seen what I saw. However you want to put it, I know they're real without a doubt. And, my best advice is if you're in the woods and you do see one, not to try to approach it, to be very humble about yourself and to try and get away from it because I have heard too many stories about them being very aggressive. And, who knows what one could do if it felt threatened.
Right.
So, I'm sure it could rip your limbs right off your body.
I would say very easily.
Very easily. Very easily. I'm 6'3", and this thing towered over me.
Well, that's me. I'm about 6'4", so, but that's no match for something that's 8 foot tall.
Yeah, exactly. I appreciate it. I really do.
Well, I appreciate you telling your story, and it helps people that maybe other people will come forward and tell their sighting.
Well, I hope they do.
But it was a good one, and I sure appreciate your time, and I'll maybe get this posted in the next day or two up on the web and tell your story.
All right. Well, just make sure you let me know when it's posted and everything, and I want to see it.
Okay. Well, I thank you.
I thank you very much.